and welcome to All Things STEM with Ashley. Today we have Naksha Roy with us. Naksha Roy is a systems engineer in the defense and space manufacturing industry, working to advance model-based system architectures for complex air vehicle systems. She leverages digital tools to enhance system design, integration, and lifecycle management. She is passionate about building the digital thread in systems engineering and is dedicated to strengthening digital communication frameworks that enable seamless flow of data and key artifacts across entire product lifecycles. So we want to welcome Naksha today as we hear about her STEM journey. And thank you, welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ashley, for having me. I love that you're doing this and giving women in STEM a platform to share their journey. So very excited to be here and share my journey with you and the others.
Yes, thank you. To start out today, Naksha, I wanted to ask what first sparked your interest in STEM and how did you decide to pursue it as a career?
Yeah, so I will say growing up at a very early age, I found a love for math. It was my favorite subject. I always saw math as, solving puzzles, and I really enjoyed that. My parents really saw that too. We didn't really have a lot of people in my family that were in STEM.
Right.
So they were, encouraging me to take on STEM classes, to take, engage in STEM programs and after-school activities. So they really supported that. And then when I started taking more specific sciences like chemistry and physics, that's when I was like, seeing the application of math in specific fields, which was really interesting. And then also started engaging in more hands-on lab activities and science fairs at schools. And that's when I was like, not only can you do all this, on paper and form ideas, but you can really transform them and make them into something in the real world, right? And that was really exciting for me to see in middle school and high school. So that led me then to pursue engineering in college. So I went to MIT for chemical engineering. And, amazing experience. Also got to do some hands-on research when I was an undergrad, and then do some internships as well in various different domains, manufacturing, energy, materials development, to really see how engineering plays out in different fields in the world. And then, right now I'm an engineer in the industry and also pursuing an advanced degree in systems engineering. So,
I love that.
It started with math, but then once I saw how, it's so useful in it, and it led me to find my love for engineering. And then definitely, planning on sticking with it for a long time.
That's so good, Naksha. Thank you for your story. I want to ask, do you have any role models or mentors that have influenced your STEM journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've been very fortunate, I would say, to have a lot of great mentors who have, given me very practical advice or ideas that I've used for problem solving or just my career growth in general. One person in particular was my research mentor in college. So when I was in college, I did about 2.5 years of undergrad research in the lab, and that was in materials development specifically. So she was the one who kind of brought me on into her, she was a PhD student. She brought me on to kind of help her as a research assistant. But in that process, she really invested that time to train me, to show me things in the lab, right? To teach me really complex concepts. And then also actually encouraged me to co-author and contribute to some of her publications and the lab's publications. Encouraged me to go out to conferences and present. She was the one who really was like, Naksha, you should go out and do these things. And then very often had career chats with me about myself, right? Like, where did I see my career heading? And then did I want to go to grad school? What are the options for me and things like that? So she played a really key role at a really key time, I would say, because, I really gained confidence in my communication abilities, in my technical writing abilities, but also and she inspired me to pursue advanced degree. So really thankful to her. So she's definitely been a great mentor.
That's excellent. So you said you met her through doing your research and development.
Yes.
And people that are in college can actually do that as well. So how did you and her initially connect? Like, how did you sign up for research and development to even meet her, for her to become a mentor?
Yeah, definitely. So my school had a undergraduate research opportunities program. It's called Europe. So it's like a formal program that's established at my school to encourage undergrads to, get involved in the lab work in different, labs in different departments that's going on at the school.
Okay.
So I applied, to that program. I also reached out to various professors at that time, and the professor of this, particular lab, he was interested in taking me on, and he had, my research mentor who was a PhD student at that time who was looking for a research assistant. So through that, I kind of got connected to her, learned about materials development, it aligned really well with my chemical engineering at that time.
Right.
So, that's how I kind of got involved in that world.
That's excellent. So if you're at MIT, check out that program. It can do great things. Our next question is going to be, were there any challenges you faced growing up that made pursuing a STEM career difficult?
Yeah, so definitely I would say the first one that comes to mind is just being the first person in my family to go through the schooling system in the U.S. Also being a first gen.
Where are you from?
So I'm from Bangladesh. I immigrated here when I was 8 years old.
Wow.
I immigrated with my parents. I came here at a young age and kind of picked up schooling, whatever I left there, picked it up here.
Yeah.
So really the first person to go through the schooling system here, and also first gen college student as well in my family. So you can imagine that with that, it's exciting, but in the process it was so challenging.
Yeah,
and the pressure. Yeah. So I think just navigating the resources related to financial aid, or standardized testing, or all of that comes with college application and enrollment. Initially it was difficult, but very thankful to my parents because despite not having firsthand experience themselves, they really went out of their way to find a lot of resources for me, and really helped me navigate that process. So that was tremendously helpful. And then the other challenge, of course, I think a lot of us women of color in STEM feel that, right? Imposter syndrome. It's real. Like being in a room, being at a table, kind of wondering like, hey, do I deserve to be here? Did I earn this seat? It's very real. I'd be lying if I say I don't feel it to this day. I do. But I will say that the best way to combat that is really to grow a network. You'll see many other women like you too. Sometimes you gotta seek out, but if you seek out, you see a lot of women that look like you or have similar backgrounds or experiences as you. And I think you have to kind of reach out to them and connect to them, learn about their journeys. And oftentimes you'll see there's so many similarities, and they can become mentors, they can become resources, and you can become the same for them, right?
I love this.
So I think it's really growing that network. You see that there's so many people like you around you that kind of helps to get rid of that imposter syndrome.
Did y'all hear all those gems? Rewind, replay, zoom in. I love that, Naksha.
Thank you.
She is giving us gems, people. I love that. Is just, I have no words. I love that. And it is so true. That is so true.
Yeah.
That's how you have to find mentors, and they can tell you, like you said, what they did with the same. Everyone goes through the same challenges, and when you have that mentor, they can give you advice that they wish they had known, and tips for success, and things to make it a little easier for you.
Exactly.
And make it better than what they had. So I love that. Our next question is, what's one project or accomplishment that you are particularly proud of in your STEM career?
Yeah, absolutely. So this project I'm proud of because I think I saw this as a way to, use my knowledge and my skills to give back to my community. So when I was in college, I was part of the Society of Women Engineers, and I applied for a incubator fund, basically, that was available for undergrad students or just members of Society of Women Engineers. So I was awarded that, and I wanted to do something in my hometown of Queens, New York. I utilized the libraries there a lot, so I wanted to kind of partner with the libraries and some of the programs that they had going on for local students and see see how I could contribute. So I actually used some of that funding during a summer, worked with the library staff, and helped run kind of a little STEM workshop that was aimed at getting K-8 students, interested in STEM, a lot of hands-on activities and labs on renewable energy, sustainability and things like that. So I actually got to work with the team to plan out some of these activities and then use that fund to buy, materials and get students, recruit students for the programs and things like that.
I love it.
And then run it for the summer. So that was super exciting, because that's like, you gain all these skills, you gain all this knowledge, right, as you go through schooling and college, but very important, I think, to give back to your community, bring that back, right, inspire the next generation.
Absolutely.
I remember when I saw these students excited, and at the end of the program, I was like, it just felt really good, so I would say that's one of my biggest accomplishments.
I love that. Is amazing accomplishment. I absolutely love that.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you. Now, I'd like to ask, what motivated you to pursue a master's in systems engineering when your undergrad was in chemical engineering, and what made you pursue a master's while you're already working in your engineering field?
Yeah, absolutely. So, to be very honest, I didn't really know about systems engineering, as a discipline or as a potential course of study, for grad school until I joined the company that I'm currently in.
Oh.
So I'm in defense and space manufacturing right now. So, when I joined, I started to see a lot of people with a systems engineering title. So I really wondered, what is it that you do? What is systems engineering, right? So I started kind of reaching out to people and scheduling some one-on-ones to learn more about their everyday role. And so when I did that, that's when I really found out about how critical systems engineering is to the work that we do, especially in my industry. So, first of all, it is a very, very interdisciplinary field, because you're expected to interface with a lot of different engineering domains, your electrical, your manufacturing, your design, all of that, you should have at least a high-level understanding of what they do and be able to integrate their work or their product to form something whole, right? Like an entire system. So I really, really like that approach because I kind of like being able to see things from a holistic point of view and being able to understand every little part that goes into it and plays a role, in it functioning, right? So that really appealed to me. And then I will say the other thing is there is a very big focus in systems engineering on understanding life cycle management, right? So when you think about a product life cycle, you're going from, your concept exploration to designing to testing to manufacturing all the way to sustainment, right? That entire life cycle. In systems engineering, especially as you take on higher level roles, you're, overseeing a lot of the activities that happen at the life cycle, but also how things flow properly from each stage to the next, right? So that is something that I think you gain a lot of exposure to in a systems engineering field, and that's what I learned of by talking to some of my colleagues, and I was like, I really want to, pursue an advanced degree in this, so then applied for the program that I'm in right now. So right now doing applied systems engineering master's at Georgia Tech, and so far it's been an amazing experience. So really grateful that I got introduced to it in my in my company, and now I'm getting to learn more about it by doing my master's.
Well, thank you, Naksha. That was amazing. How does your current job complement the concepts you're learning in your master's program?
So right now I'm seeing, a lot of synergy between my role as a systems engineering at my company and my master's program. Specifically, a lot of the tools that I'm learning in my master's program, specifically in modeling and simulation, I'm actually using similar or the same tools, in my role.
Crazy. Wow.
So getting, training or practice doing assignments for grad school, and then getting to actually apply them to do real tasks, in the industry. So that is definitely a plus, right? It's kind of reinforcing those skills or those concepts in both places. And then the other thing is just feel like I have a better understanding of why and how things function, you know, at work. So like I was mentioning, you know, earlier, the product lifecycle management is a very essential part of systems engineering. And in some of the courses I've taken already, have learned a lot of the fundamental concepts behind it, and what are some of the, you know, key factors or key ideas that you know that you need to keep in mind if you're overseeing a product's life cycle. So having now all that knowledge, right, and going back to work and seeing, you know, a program either, you know, in an early stage or a program in production, I know better now why certain activities happen the way they do, right? Why do we have certain processes that are standard processes, right? Well, there's definitely some systems engineering or some, you know, reasoning behind all of that. And that is why they have been established that way, right? And then also using, you know, some of that knowledge to see, like, how can processes be improved, right? Like, how can we make them more efficient? So I think it's just given me such a new perspective to look at, you know, things at work, which I think is really important if I want to improve, you know, certain functions or certain activities at work and make them better.
Right. I love that. Oh my God. With you balancing a full-time job, part-time school, having me time, and a social life, can you tell us how you balance it all and give us some tips on how we can manage if we ever in that phase?
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, first of all, that is a very, very important thing to keep in mind as you're going through school, life, work, everything, right? You need to be able to figure out a way to manage all of that to prevent yourself, you know, from getting super overwhelmed at times. So I think there's a couple things that have worked out very well for me. The first has been just setting boundaries. Very important, you know, early on. You can't do everything. You can't say yes to everyone. Or you need to, you know, ask for more time if you're kind of one of those people. I'm one of those people that doesn't really like to say no.
Yes, me.
So, you know, it's very important to set those boundaries, right, early on, and just know that you have to be very intentional with your time when you're doing multiple things, right? If you don't, you're going to drain out. It's just not going to be the best experience. You're going to be spread very thin. So I think that's something that I've done, you know, recognizing when to say no, recognizing when to say yes, recognizing when to say, hey, I need more time. The second thing I've been doing is creating kind of like a priority list or a goals list, and doing that pretty frequently every couple months. The reason I like to do that is because I think, especially as we navigate adulthood, we get more and more accumulating on our plate, right? And tasks or events, all of that is just going to continuously come up. But you're going to have to set priorities, right? There's some things that have to happen soon, and you need to make sure that those, you literally write them down as your priorities for the next couple months, you know? Other things, include them, but they can fall, you know, down in the list. And the reason having them written down helps me so much is because in a couple months, you know, things get tough, and then I feel overwhelmed. I have something that I can come back to and remind myself, like, hey, you know, this is what I set, you know, this is how I set my priorities. Just to look at that and then reorient myself, you know, just remind myself, okay, these are the main things that I have to focus at this time.
I love that.
So that has been very important. And then the last thing I would say, having and maintaining and also following like a personal calendar. Right? Very, very, very important. I think at this point we all have work calendars, right? When work ends, you need to make sure you're following your personal calendar. So if that is allocating time for, you know, to study or to do my assignments or to work out or I don't know, even to watch a movie with friends, like I will put that down just so I have it on my calendar. And again, being intentional with your time, right? You know exactly what you need to dedicate some you know amounts of time to, and if you have it set on your calendar, you can use that as a reference.
I love that.
Those have been super helpful.
Excellent gems. This is amazing, Naksha. Thank you. Thank you for
absolutely.
that. How do you envision your master's influencing your long-term career plan?
Yeah, so I see this kind of as a stepping stone, you know, in my long-term career. So right now, I'm really focusing on getting technical depth. and
Right.
through my master's, and
Yeah.
that is really learning about the modeling tools, the simulation tools,
Yeah.
and all of the the fundamental concepts that are behind system design, system analysis, life
Yeah.
cycle management, all those
Yeah.
core concepts of systems engineering, and that is also why I'm in a systems engineering role at my company, is because I also want to get that practical experience, really getting myself immersed in that technical field, and understanding how to really apply everything that I'm learning in school in the industry. I will say that once I feel like I've gotten enough technical depth, definitely want to also shift more to project management or program management, because I think systems engineering, in addition to understanding the technical side of things, very key to also kind of have a holistic view of your system or your processes, and be able to look at things from a perspective of cost or risks or schedule, right?
Absolutely.
And things like that. And that is very equivalent, if you think about it, to program management.
It is.
So ultimately I want to be able to head to that role, but I think it's very important to build that technical foundation right now. So that is what I'm focusing on.
Next, I want to ask, are there any particular roles or areas within systems engineering that you are now more interested in exploring as a result of your master's education?
Yeah, I will say I've been very inspired by current course I'm taking right now, actually, which is in modeling and simulation specifically. Okay. So it's all about, setting up models for different things, supply chain or transportation or logistics systems, but also being able to simulate them to see over a period of time, say a couple of years, how is that model going to behave? If you were to adjust some of the parameters in the model, right, change one variable or this other variable, what impact is it going to have, right, on costs, on the performance, right? So that is kind of what we're doing, but using modeling and simulation tools to do that, to replicate, things that we would see in real life systems, right?
Yeah.
So that I've become very interested in, and I definitely think I want to take on some more tasks at work that are focused on utilizing modeling and simulation tools, because I think, again, not only you're seeing behavior over a long period of time, but it's also very important for decision making, right? Yeah. When you know what impact one variable will cause, then you can, make certain decisions to make sure you reduce risks or avoid any costly mistakes that can happen down the line. So I would say that's probably been one of my favorite courses, and something I would like to get more involved in the field of systems engineering.
My next question is, what advice would you give someone considering a master's program while working full-time when they're making that decision? Because, some people go straight out of college, undergrad, but some people are like, okay, I'm in the workforce, I want more. Yeah. What advice would you give them when deciding, is this the path for me?
Yeah. So I would say, be intentional about what you pick, right? Yeah. I think it's always, if you know what you want to do, go right at it. Apply for the programs right after you graduate college if you want to do that, and start your master's early. For me, I was really unsure. I actually did not know. I mean, I feel like I got a really good undergrad, in chemical engineering. But I felt like I wanted to, try something else potentially. So that's why I was like, I'm going to spend some time in the workforce, talk to people, and that's why networking is so important, because you learn about other people's roles, you learn about what they do on a daily basis, and that might inspire you to pursue something different, right, than what you did in undergrad. So that was very important to me. I think when I spent a couple years and I networked and I learned about all these different roles at my company and the industry, became aware of systems engineering, then I made the decision to pursue master's. So definitely, be intentional about that. If you feel like you don't know exactly what you want, spend some time in the workforce and be patient and learn, and then go ahead and make that choice for yourself to get a master's.
Yes. What's the best piece of advice you've received so far, and how has it shaped your career path?
Ooh, okay. So the best piece of advice that I've received is probably when you get a task or you get put on a project,
Yeah.
own that task.
Yes.
Or, own that part of the project, whatever you're assigned to. It's so important to kind of have that ownership feeling, because when you're just doing the task, but you don't understand the bigger picture, what it's for, the goal, I feel like you're not as motivated, right?
Yeah.
Because you're kind of, it's just like it's just a task. It's a repetitive action.
Yeah.
But one thing that I've kind of started to do is, like, anytime I get a task, especially because in my current role, I'm pretty new. So, initially I didn't really understand what things were for. I was just kind of getting tasks, right? But talking to my lead or my manager and asking, like, hey, I know I got this, but what is it for, right? What value is it going to bring for our group or for our program or the company, right? Tell me about, tell me about when I make this, where is it going to go next, right? Who's going to take over this, and then what value are they going to get out of this?
Yeah.
Very, very important to understand that. And once you do, two things happen. You're more motivated, right? Because you understand the goal, and you know that you're contributing to, to something important. Yeah. And second thing is that when someone else asks you, hey, like, what do you do and why do you do it? Like, what's the bigger picture, right? You can explain it. You can translate that, for them, especially when it comes to customers or stakeholders who you really want to, paint a big picture for them, right? If you want to get them on board. So definitely own the task or the project that you've been assigned. Ask questions if you don't fully understand it, and your lead or manager will explain it to you.
I love that. That is something I'm doing right now. I've kind of been introduced to everything from a high level, and now I'm getting into understanding the why. What does this impact? Why is this important? Okay, so like you said, you can explain to customers or stakeholders, because once you understand the full process, like you said, you get even more passionate about, let's get this done, because you know what the end result is and the main bigger impact that it goes into the bigger picture. So
absolutely.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Here we go. How do you keep yourself motivated and engaged when things get tough, especially balancing everything with school and work?
Yeah. Things will get tough. I think I think that is something that I accepted at first, is that like things are gonna get tough and overwhelming at times, but again, reminding yourself that you will overcome it, right? Like, you'll figure out a way to manage all of that and overcome it. So I think it's just first making sure you have that mindset.
Yes.
Right. And then the second thing is the priority list, right? Making that priority list of what you want to prioritize for the next couple of months, right? Or your immediate goals. Whenever things get tough or I feel lost, I always have that to come back to. Like, literally a physical piece of paper that I've written down, my priorities to. So then, just glimpsing over that and reminding myself, like, okay, you know what? Let me recenter, right? Let me reorient, and then just take a couple breaths, right? And then start again. Literally, you just have to do that sometimes. I think it has a really meditative effect to just take a couple breaths, come back to where you started, or your list or your goals, whatever, and just like start again. It's fine.
I love that.
So
thank you for that tip. So that's definitely something you can utilize. So this one's about systems engineering again. This one is talking about, how do you see the field of system engineering evolving over the next 5 to 10 years, and how do you plan to stay ahead of these changes? Now, I know you're studying this right now, but from what you have learned, how do you think it will transition? Because right now we're in the world of AI. We see it everywhere we go, everything we do. We see it marketed on every platform, Google, Facebook, Instagram. How do you think systems engineering will evolve over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. So in the world of systems engineering, and then also in the industry that I'm in right now, there's a very, very big push on digital transformation.
Yes.
So specific to systems engineering, there's a really big effort going on to kind of shift from the traditional systems engineering, so that's your physical document driven processes, to model-based processes, model-based systems engineering, right? So that's utilizing models or digital artifacts to be able to execute a program or like a system, right? Instead of relying on physical documents. The idea is that it's going to allow for better collaboration between different groups. Real-time visualization of how a system evolves, right? When you can actually see that in a model, right? and overall just, greater efficiency.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a push, but my way of staying ahead is by, taking more model-based classes,
Yes.
and familiarizing myself with
Yeah.
model-based tools early on.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that in my master's program, there's actually a very big focus on model-based systems engineering. They, obviously we learned the core concepts of systems engineering, but they have been very, very focused on getting us introduced to more complex tools, modeling and simulation and things like that.
Yeah.
Really diving into those tools to understand the full capabilities of them, right? Like
Yes.
in what all ways can those be utilized to get meaningful data, to get meaningful insights, right?
Yes.
So really trying to take advantage of that, and then also at work, being part of new and developmental programs that are, experiencing that shift right now that I talked about, because they are kind of the first programs to adopt some of these tools, right?
That's good.
So being part of that early on is definitely a great way to stay ahead.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Naksha.
Yeah.
So looking back, is there anything you would have done differently on your path to where you are now?
Yeah, that's a great question. One thing that I wish I knew earlier is that taking, failures and embracing them as learning opportunities. It's definitely not easy. I don't know if you felt this, but when I was younger, right, I was sometimes, if not all the time, very focused on getting things right.
Right.
Like getting things perfect or right the first time. Very type A.
Right.
And then what happened is, I realized the value of trial and error. Yes. Right? Like, it's important to make mistakes because you just learn more from that, and then are able to build a better version of it the next time.
Yes.
So there's a really nice saying in systems engineering that I really like. It's called, it's that all models are wrong, but some models are useful.
Okay.
So the reason I like that saying so much is because, the focus is not on getting the perfect model or the right model,
right,
but it's more about, creating a model that you think is going to give you some sort of a, useful data or useful insights, right? And then using that to then make your next iteration, right? Yeah. Make that model better or extend that model so that you get different insights. Yeah. Right? So I think that is a very important mindset to have, because then you're less focused on getting things right, but more focused on trying something out for the first time and learning from it and then making it better.
I love that. And this is why this platform is important, to help people learn the mistakes that, not even mistakes, but the things we had to learn by trial and error, and to learn from us, or to get tips of success on what we had. Because sometimes, back to how we mentioned mentors earlier, that is so important, getting mentors, finding resources to find out this is what you can do better than what I did. Or like you said, failure is good. Learning that failure is okay. You don't have to be perfect and you can still make it. She's super successful, wonderful, and she just poured so many gems in today's episode that I can't even fathom. I love it.
Oh,
I love it. So
actually.
just know that you can make it. The pathway doesn't have to be linear, but you will survive.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Naksha. To close us out today, I have one more question.
Okay.
And that is, what are 3 tips for success in navigating the STEM industry, or your STEM journey as a whole, from elementary all the way through your master's now? What are 3 tips that you would give? Yeah,
so I would say first is, when you see an opportunity, could be an internship, could be a job, and it seems really interesting to you, don't doubt yourself, apply to it. I think sometimes what happens is we'll see positions, but we'll wonder, do I have, enough experience, or am I really fit for this? If it sounds interesting to you and you meet the basic, requirements, apply to it. The worst that will happen is they'll say
learn.
no.
Or you learn. Or they say no, but
exactly. But that's it.
You tried.
Because you never want to have that feeling of I didn't try, and so I'll never know.
Right.
You know, and that's the reason they
true.
say you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
I love that.
So that is, you know, that's real life. Like, you really do. So that is very important. The second thing I will say is networking.
Yes.
Networking is everything. Network as early as you can. You know, you don't have to wait till you're in the industry.
Nope.
You can do it, you know, as early as high school. You know, like if you feel like you're surrounded by some individuals that have, you feel like, cool backgrounds, or you really resonate with, or you just want to learn from, you know, reach out to them, talk to them. People love, you know, getting asked questions and being able to share about their journey, just like how we're doing it here. So, you know, it's really great to just like start to build that network early on, and you can utilize them, you know, in the future for resources, for help, for mentorship, and they will, you know, also reach out to you for help as well. So very important to build that network. And then the third and final thing I will say, stay informed as much as possible about, you know, just STEM things going on around you. You don't have to be an expert in it, right? But like, just know about the latest technological developments, right, and the impact of it just at a high level, just so you can see, you know, when you see certain things around in your everyday life, you can make those connections and understand why certain things are happening the way they are. Or you can bring some of that back to your work, or you know, whatever you do, and be able to, you know, apply something new, a new technology, a new tool, right, to make something better, something more efficient. So to do that, very important to just stay aware of what's happening, the latest kind of innovations and developments around you in the world.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Naksha, for coming to All Things STEM with Ashley. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, your journey. We truly appreciate you joining us today. Please make sure you like and subscribe, and check out more great guests coming up on All Things STEM with Ashley. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.